I realized after last time, a lot of you thought I was a little too aggressive. I apologize for that. I thought we were all adults. I'm more than happy to speak like we're in a kindergarten class, so that's what I'll be doing today. I also got the memo that you didn't like that many slides, so I only have 3 of them for you today, and the rest is going to be show and tell. But while we wait for Chris, can you share my screen, please?
Absolutely.
All right, so if we go back to 2019, that was right after Solo, a Star Wars disaster came out, and this was when Bob Iger said that there was just too much Star Wars at one time and Star Wars fatigue. Then we had Kathleen Kennedy in the same year, a few months later, come out and say every one of these movies in regards to Marvel, right? Because if you guys go back to the first episode when I went over Bob Iger and them purchasing Star Wars from George Lucas and all of Lucasfilm. They also acquired Marvel. I explained that with the Pixar deal, and then with Marvel, and then with Star Wars. And so this is what Kathleen Kennedy is referencing. Every one of these movies, Marvel, is particularly hard nut to crack. There's no source material. We don't have comic books. We don't have 800-page novels. Kathleen Kennedy, Rolling Stone, 2019. And then you have the funny meme underneath it. Now I will elaborate on that in a moment. But guys, also, I did want to point out before I stopped the slideshow, George Lucas even used the EU when he was writing the prequels. So a lot of people like to give George Lucas, a lot of heat on some of the stuff that he did, which, everyone is open for criticism. But at least in this aspect, George Lucas respected stories that other people wrote with his IP because they also respected the universe that he created. Now, to end the slideshow, and can you please make me full screen?
Of course.
All right, so Kathleen Kennedy, there's no comic books, right? There's absolutely no source material of any kind, and this goes along with what Doomcock was saying about how there is, soon all of this is going to be gone, but they don't have any of this, right? Speaking of 800-page novels, they don't have any of this, right? There's nothing. This doesn't exist. Whereas when you had Marvel, you had someone like Kevin Feige who had an entire Bible of all of these Marvel characters, stories that they had done. And they had this little thing, which is crucial, a plan. They didn't go and erase all of the Marvel characters to create new ones. They utilized the things that they had. So recently, Disney has, been going and kind of just destroying past characters instead of going over, I don't know, maybe stories that already existed. Now, I do have a lot of books to show you. I did say that this is show and tell. These are only a fraction of the ones I could find. As you can see behind me, there's a lot of stuff to go through. But so as far as the expanded universe goes, what they are doing now after they notice the Star Wars fatigue as for what they are doing, which is blatantly just destroying characters, showing no respect to them or anything that came before them, and now they are bleeding money. So what are they doing? They're like, oh, here are all these books and things that we kind of threw away. Let's go and just get the Spark Notes, the very bad Spark Notes version of them, and let's make the 99-cent store knockoff versions of them. So if you go to the Kenobi show, I believe it is the Kenobi, no, it's the Andor show. There's a character named Lucan, the Skarsgård guy plays him. I can't remember his name. So that is actually a knockoff of a fantastic character, one of my favorite characters in the expanded universe, Talon Karrde. Talon Karrde is in the Thrawn novels that Timothy Zahn wrote. Here we have Grand Admiral Thrawn. He has this little creature on his shoulder called an Islamari. An Islamari is a creature that creates bubbles in the Force, so Jedis can't use their powers in the presence of an Islamari. That was part of Thrawn's grand plan. Now they're throwing away, this character, they're butchering this character, and they're just changing everything to, go like what Doomcock was saying with Ahsoka. They're changing all of these things. Now, there is a clip out there, I believe you can find it, where Dave Filoni is talking, and Katie Lucas, George Lucas's daughter, who was also in Star Wars, and she wrote some of the best episodes of the Clone Wars ever. She was talking about how they referenced the EU, and Dave Filoni did not want to give these EU creators credit. And the reason that is because they don't want to pay people like Timothy Zahn, like the creator of, this character called Revan, fantastic character, most beloved character, this character called Bane. Remember, none of these characters exist. Characters like Mara Jade, None of those characters exist because they don't want to pay them. So this was the first EU book ever created. This is A Splinter of the Mind's Eye. This brings in the Kyber crystals. And unfortunately, I am blanking on, oh, there we go, Alan Dean. I was like, it's something with an A. I knew that. So Alan actually went on, I believe it's Orville Nation's channel, and he did a live stream explaining how Disney stopped paying him royalties for not only this book, but other books that he wrote. And that is what Disney is doing with a majority of the people in the EU. If you guys go and look, Chris Avallone wrote KOTOR 2. He wrote the video game. That has one of the most iconic characters ever, which is Darth Kreia. And Kreia, everybody that I know that's a Star Wars fan that has played those games absolutely adores Kreia. Well, guess what? They don't want to use those characters because they don't want to pay the people that created them. And when you talk to people that worked on these books, and like people like Timothy Zahn, who is still alive, who is still working, who is still going to cons and talking to fans, well, guess what? He is getting gypped on Thrawn because they don't want to pay him royalties. So what they are doing with Kathleen Kennedy lying about not having novels, not having comics, is that they want to erase them and take things. Remember that 10% rule that they do a lot with Star Trek? Oh, well, we're going to take somebody else's creation and we're going to change it a little bit so that way we can do it our way, not give this other person that actually created it credit, and they don't have to pay them. And right now, I believe I saw a projection online about all of the most recent Disney movies that they have released, and they have lost, what was it, over $850 billion? That's a lot of money. Actually, I might be a little high on there. Maybe it's 850 million. That sounds about right. Sorry, I'm not a math person, as you guys can see. But I know what is this? What are you guys saying in the private chat? Am I missing something? Did I run out of time yet? Do you want me
to you're fine. Continue, but we'll have to wrap up for cross-examination.
Okay, no problem. All right, the last point that I will make after, showing you guys all of the novels, all of these trilogies that they don't have source material for that. One of the things that Disney, and one of the reasons why George Lucas became a billionaire, was the toy sales, right? And Disney likes making toys, or at least they used to, and they wanted to acquire that. They bought the merchandising rights from George Lucas, so that way they can have it, so that way they can make money off of your children and every adult that wants to purchase stuff from Disney. Well, when George Lucas still owned Star Wars, and for anyone that wants to dismiss the EU and say that it wasn't important, so George Lucas came out with this line. So this was a collaboration with Hasbro. So this was the comic book 2-pack, and this was a way for kids to not only get into reading, but also you get 2 characters. So these are actually some of the rarest action figures you can find. They also go for very, very expensive on eBay. The characters that I showed you a moment ago with Talon Card and Thrawn, these were actually from a comic book 2-pack, and it cost $80 a pop just for these 2 opened action figures. This one was a lot more expensive, and they go even higher. Whereas Disney, with their characters like Rose Tico, you can't even give them away for 5 cents. Nobody wants them. But this was a fantastic way for kids like me when I was little to get into reading comics, and you get action figures with it. But Disney doesn't care about this. They said the EU wasn't important. Nobody cares about the EU, yet when you have stuff like this, that is some of the hardest and most valuable Star Wars merchandise out there to find, that is still some of the most valuable considering the price point of it. They just want to throw that out the door because they would rather take the hit and not pay the people that created this and not give George Lucas credit for any of it, as compared to actually giving the fans what they want, which is what Marvel did.
The prosecution is.
Wait, Chris, I have a question for you. Then, do you know who this is?
Is that Darth Bane?
No.
I can't. Darth Revan. It's one of. Yeah, I don't.
This is Revan. This
Okay.
is Bane. Do you know who this is?
I do not know who that is.
Okay, I'm going to cover up the name. Do you know who this is? This is a character that they erased.
No, I do not know who that is.
This is Jaina Solo, a character that they that they destroyed, so that way we could have Kylo Ren. Isn't that fun?